Hello everyone, this tutorial is a simple tutorial about Cinema4D Mograph cloners and effectors and I just want to show you different type of effectors and the different ways that you can use the cloner. So to access the cloner, in the Mograph menu there are different options which you can find cloner here. So let's just create a cloner to see what that is. When you create a cloner, you see nothing, but if you select the cloner, there are a couple of different options that you can select. The mode, which is linear, object, radial, grid array, and honeycomb array. So it has different type of instance mode, count, offset, which we talk about during the tutorial. So let's see how it works. To use the cloner, you always need to use an object as a child to duplicate. So here I use just a simple cube and then drag it and make it as a child. So as I do it, you see it start to duplicate. You don't see the result correctly because the distance between the cubes is less than its size. So if I select the cloner and go to the p.y and change it, you see it'll start to show the cloner. So this is based on Y or Y axis. So I can make it 0 and put the number here. So it'll start to duplicate an X axis. So I can change the number simply. What I can do, I can change the offset. You see, it changed the offset, change the number, and you can also change this number, then duplicate based on two different axes, and you can change the rotation. You see, all right, so this is a linear type which you can duplicate objects in one line. The next one is the radial. So if I set it to radial, look what happened. I have count, I have radial. It's based on centimeters. So if I go further and with more and big number for radial, you see the start to show. I can change the number and then same story. So start angle, end angle, both can be defined here. I can change the offset and offset variation, so there will be some randomizing that. So let me change this, get back to 0 and 0. The next one is the grid array. So if I set it to grid array, you see 3, 3, 3 with this number. So it's small, I can change it to a bigger number. Then I start to see all this. So you see 3 by 3 by 3. It means that I have 27 cubes here. So I can change the number. I can change the size. And I can change the form to, you see, sphere, cylinder, or object, which I can assign object here. Okay, this is grid array. The next one is a honeycomb array, which is pretty cool. You see, it's just works like honeycomb, and you can define the distance between them easily. So let's say 200 to 200, and if I make the cube smaller, See, it start to show this cool size. And also you can, what you can do, you can offset. You see this offset I can define. It will be exactly like a grid. If I set the offset to 0, or I can change the offset to whatever I want. Okay, and the form also here can be different. I can set it to circle, for example. You will see that this is the honeycomb in circle mode, and again you can change the offset. All right, so the last one is object mode. So for object mode, you always need another object. So let's say for here I put a sphere. If I put a sphere, make it a little bigger, and then select the cloner, drag it and put it in object. As you see, it start cloning on this surface because it says surface. The distribution mode is set to surface. You can change it to vertices. Then it will start to duplicate on each vertex. On edge, it could be on polygon center, which I like. I always use it on volume or random or surface. So you can, the volume. To see them, you may need to hide that. You can just hold Alt and click on these dots here 2 times, then you hide the actual sphere. So if I increase the number, you see now it start to fill up the sphere with your cubes. Again, if I set it back to surface, it duplicates on the surface. All right, this is the whole thing about the cloner object menu, object tab. There are different other tabs which we need to see what they do. So the transform is cool. If I use the transform, let's see, I change this. You see, it start to rotate all the objects has been cloned. So this is cool, and it do the same thing. It does the same thing in the same axis. I can change the scale in whatever direction I want, and I can change the position, as you see. All right, so let's get back to default. And the other thing is Effector. So let's see what Effector does here. It's empty, so it means that we need something to put in this menu, right? So in the Effector menu, if you go to the Mograph Effectors, here are all the effectors that we can use to work with our cloner. So let's see how it works. I just start with the random effector. It's one of the easiest one, but it's at the same time it's really cool. So I select the cloner. If you already select the cloner and select the effector, by default it assigns to the cloner. So you see it's in the menu. But if you don't select the cloner, select nothing, and create your effector, you need to select the cloner afterward and then drag it and put it here. All right. Okay, so let's see what does random do here. The random effector has a parameter. In the parameter, by default, the position is off, and it's always set to 50, 50, 50 in all axes. If I turn it off, so there is nothing happening to our cloner. Okay, so I start by scale. I turn it off and start to scale it. As you look carefully, it start to apply X scale to objects randomly. If you need one uniform scale, you just need to check this box. Then whatever number you put here, you see they have different size, but uniformly. All right. So the other thing is rotation. So if I change the rotation, let's see what happened. You see each one has different rotation. It's cool. Awesome. And the position is the same thing. So if I change it, you see they have different positions. Okay, this is random effector. Okay, if I get back, you may need to see that in other type of cloner. So if I turn it off, here is the grid cloner. If I turn on, you see that now it's completely random. I can turn off rotation, and then you see different size. All right. That's the random effector. The other, before jumping to the other effector, random effector, if you go to the effector tab, you can change the random mode from random, which is default, to Gaussian or noise or turbulence. So the noise actually have animation. You see the animation speed. So let's see what happened. It start to animate your cloner. So if I set it back to object, for example, this is what I have, and it just work on the parameter that we already have assigned to it. So I just have a scale. I can turn on rotation. You see they rotate as well. They can have position. I can set it to, let's say, 10, 10, 10, some small numbers to see it's beautiful. It's a start to work like this. So another thing you can change is the speed. So if I set it to 10, you see now the speed really is slow. You can set it to higher speed but with different scale. So you see the scale is different. As you see, you can change this. It just works like frequency, I guess. And you can also set it to turbulence. You see it assigns some random movement based on the parameter you have to assign. And yeah, I think these are the most important things that you can use. So random, which you already know what it is, and the noise and turbulence. All right, that's the random effector. I'm gonna turn it off, select the cloner, and let's see other effectors. So let's turn it back to grid effector. Okay, here I have one other cool effector which called formula. So this formula is pretty cool. So let's see what happened with formula. I just assigned the formula. Now let me play that. This is what happened. So it's just a formula effector based on a special a script. It assign this animation. So you can change this animation just by changing this formula. There are some variables that you can use as a guide. I can change it, you see, to, let's say, different numbers. This change the speed, it changed the frequency, you see, and also the parameter. So if I turn off the position and change the rotation instead, so oops, okay, change the rotation and see what happened. Or this is too much. I can change the speed, I can change the position, let's say 200 here, and make it 0. Alright, so this is formula effector. If you are not happy with the speed, you can go to the effector and change this parameter. And the other thing, so let me try that on other type of the cloner, so linear. So see what happened in linear. This is linear. Let's go with higher number. You see that? This is how formula effector works. Another type of effector, here we have push apart. I love this effector. It's pretty powerful. So let's see how it works. I have the push effector here. I'm gonna turn off these other effectors, make sure they don't affect on our cloner. So push apart. So if I get back to the cloner, let me turn it off first, set it to object again. I want to see my object on this mode, and if I set it, you know, the volume, it shows the best result by this. Okay, so if I want to avoid these intersections, you see they go inside each other. If I turn off the ambient occlusion in the viewport, you may see it better. I don't like them, so definitely I need to use dynamics, but it could make the scene a little heavy. So to avoid using dynamics, sometimes it's really good to just use the push apart effector. So let's see how it works. If I turn it on, see what happened. Just by turning on and off this effector, you see these two now start to, you know, avoid intersection. I can select this and change this radius. You see, by changing the radius, it start to pushing apart object more and more. So now if I mix these two together, the random effector and the push apart, make sure you turn it on here as well. So see, I can have these random objects like this. I just want to make sure my random effector has enough randomness. So set it to 120, 120, 120 for example. This is cool. So I can get back to 100. So I see some intersections. Okay, so now you see it start to show cool cloners without any intersection. So if I go with higher number, you know, you don't see any intersections. So let's see how it works if I use the noise effector. If I go here, so it's already set to noise. If I play that, you see they hardly intersect with each other, but at the same time, you know, you have all the animations that you want. So this is pretty cool. And another thing, don't forget the order of the effectors in your cloner is really important. So if I put them under the push apart, so let's see, you see it jumps. So now you get a different result. So make sure you put them in the decent order that you want, because each different order give you different results. Awesome. So this one is push apart, but the other thing about push apart is the mode. You can change the mode to scale apart or hide, so, or along X, along Y and Z. So let's say if set it to along X, you see it'll start to push apart objects but along one axis. So if I change it, you see it reacts like this. And if I play this, see what happened. See that? It's just like dynamics. If I set it to scale apart, this is cool because it just start to scale objects based on their distance. That's cool. See, I can just scale them. And the other thing is hide. So it just hide objects when they start to intersect, or exceed this radius you define here. All right, so I'm gonna push it, put it to push apart again. This is the animation. All right, so this one was push apart. You can use it with different type of cloner mode. So let's say linear. See what happened here. If I have this with the big number, and if I change this to 100, let's say, so you see what happened. So let's turn on formula as well to see how it works together. You see it start to, if I put it down, I may see that better. Let me turn it off for now. So you see without that there are a lot of intersection between these, but if I turn it on, now it will start to show this. I can change it to scale apart and change this number to 100, let's say 150. So this is cool. Awesome. So let's see quickly other type of effectors which is useful. So the other one is plane effector. Plane effector is really useful. So let me turn off all other effectors, get back to this linear and set this to 200 and 40. 35. Okay. So if I select the cloner with the plane effector, by default it starts to just jump a little higher, which is 100 centimeters. If I turn it off, set the rotation, so you see it just assign these parameters to your cloner. So this is really cool and handful. So can change the scale, you see. So you may ask yourself why we need this plane effector, because I'm already able to do all these parameters in, for example, cloner, transform, tab, right? Yes, but the benefit of plane effector comes here, especially when you use fall off. So if I use fall off here, you see the difference. So let's say I go to the fall off menu and then select, for example, this linear. All right, so let's see what happened. If I just scale this, see what happened. Let me select that again. You see that? So now it start to react like this. This is really cool. And just so you know, all these fall offs are something new in Cinema4D. I think after R20 or 19, something like that. But yeah, they are new. They are really great, and you can play with them, create tons of different cool animations. You can, you can select the field and play with all the other parameters. I'm not gonna work on fall offs in this tutorial, so I will make a different tutorial for all different fall off types in Cinema4D, but here I just want to focus on effectors. So as you see, again, in fall off you can use different type of fall off. So let me use spherical, for example, see what happened. So you see that this is spherical mode, and it will start to react on all of these. So if I change these parameters, for example, and I rescale the sky and maybe set this to 0. Let me change the cloner to something like grid, and also set it to 1, set this to 20, 20, 0, 2000, not 2000, maybe 6000 and 6000. All right, so 10,000 and 10,000. Cool. So I just made this grid with Cloner, and then let's see how it works. If I just bring this guy, you see this cool effect, which I can and you know, with different numbers you get different type of effect. Again, I will make a different tutorial for all the fall off, but I just wanted to show you one of the benefits of having fall off in the plane effector, for example. Or for example, you can check this visibility, so you can disable or invisible other cloners which they are not in the in this field. So if I turn off all things here, you see it just hide the rest. So let's say I invert this field, it just hide, you know, all these inside this field. All right. By the way, so this was the benefit of using the plane effector, and you can also change the strange here. You see I start to react like this. Awesome. Let me turn off this effector and see the other cool ones. The other cool one is shader effector. If I select the cloner, click on the shader effector, so see what happened. Let's make sure in the effector I already have the shader. The rest, as long as they are off, set to off here, I don't care if they are off here as well. So the shader effector is on. Nothing happened. Why? Because shader effector doesn't work by itself. It needs some extra step, which is a shader. It's shader effector, right? So in shader effector, I just create, let's say, a noise. As once I create the noise, you see some really you see subtle the difference between these, and also the color. If you look carefully, the color is different. So let's see how we can see that better and clearer. I go to the noise effector, change it to something like fire. So you see it's stronger with the more contrast. And let's change some parameters. In parameter, I can change the rotation to something like 60, not this angle, this angle. So as you see, it's work exactly based on the noise pattern. So if I go to the shader and in shading, select the noise. So you see if I change this scale, it changed the scale. If I set it to, let's say, 200, okay, if I change the high clip, you see it start to change these scales. It's pretty cool. So it means that I can control those parameters just by a noise pattern. And also I can animate this. So let's say I set this to 0.2. Let me play that. As you see, they start to animate. Let me set that to 0.8. It's really cool. So we can change the parameters again. Let's say I set this to 2050, and you see they start to react. And again, it's just based on the pattern. So if I change the pattern, if I go with something really big, set it to, you can set this to different type of, you know, I'm not sure, but it doesn't affect it. We should, but let's see. Yeah, I can change these parameters. So as you see now, they show different result. So the other thing again, like that, I can change the visibility here, and we can turn this off. You can do whatever you want here. In this effector again, you have the strengths, so I can change the strengths. And in the shading, so let's see if I change it to red, you see they start to get the color from the sky. So I can easily set the color to something like this and get back to the, what did I change? Okay, the parameter. Yeah, you know, I think because I changed this color value, it start to affect differently. Yeah, or you can change this scale. Awesome. So this was shader effector, right? Another thing which is cool is a time effector. So I'm gonna turn it off, select the cloner, click on the time effector. Let's see what happened by default. If I play it, they just start rotating and rotating. Okay, so if I go to parameter, by default the rotation has been checked and set to 90 for this axis. So it means that it just add animation. You see, they start to move. Okay, so if I set the animation, this is what it does. So it's cool. And also I can select, let's say linear, for example, and I can, in the time effector, I can use a linear fall off, just like the last time we used it for plane effector. So see what happened. It start to work linearly. Okay, this is awesome. And also we can get number in this axis. Okay, awesome. All right, so time effector, you know, play this animation based on these parameters. Awesome. And this was time effector. Another cool effector that I think I should tell you about is the target effector. So if I select the cloner, select the target effector, see what happened. I do have the target effector. You see, they are always facing to this target. It's so cool. Let me change it to grid mode again. So see what happened. They always look to the target effector. So I can also assign an object. So let's say I assign this sphere in the target object, and let me select and rescale it a little to see it clearly. Okay, so as you see, they start to react to this. So to have a better, you know, idea, if I just select let's say a pyramid and put it under my cloner and get rid of this cube for now. So let me make them a little bigger. Awesome. So now you see, if I reposition this, it just reacts the target, and they always, you know, look to this guy. So maybe I can change the change the height here, and also in the target up vector, I can set the up vector to whatever I want. Then they always have one up vector, so it's cool. You see that? The other thing about this, so let me make them less than 20 to see them better. Okay, this is awesome. Now if I change this, you see this is how target works. The other cool thing about target effector, you can also check this repeal, and then if let me put it down here. So this target effector, see this number, if I set it to a big number, let's say that's a lot, so maybe 1000 or 2. So look at that. If I change the sphere, which is the target, you see how they work. Wow, this is pretty cool. And you can also play with the parameters. So distance strange, you see I can define it to have a better, smoother, reaction. So this is how it works now. You don't see the interaction. This is awesome, isn't it? So let's have a cool animation here. For example, if I select this sphere, this could be a bonus. Right click in Cinema4D tags, there is a tag called vibrate. So if I just add that vibrate, it add the vibration to your object. I enable the position, and in these two, so let's say 500 and 500. So if I play that, see what happened. So if I set it to 2000 and 2000 and change the frequency to something like lower, like this, this needs more number. So see what happened here. This is cool. This is really cool. Okay, this is target effector, right? You can play with that with different type of, so let's see here, if I just select this to linear, so let's see what happened. This is cool. I can just select this and put it here. I can change the cloner to, let's say, object mode and put it here. Let's see what happened. I think we need to scale this a little bit. Okay, this is what happened here. Awesome. So yeah, this is target effector, and as you see, I can just change this, and also just quick things. So you see, if you want to face them exactly with this angle, you can select the target, and you have the up vector, and also, so let's say change the up vector. You see, they have now different vector here. So if I change this sphere, now they react differently. Also, in the actual pyramid, so you can change the orientation. See, if I set this orientation to something like this, now this is exactly what I want. Now let's see. You see that? See what happened? They always face the sky. All right, awesome. This was target effector. Pretty simple, but really cool. So plane effector, formula, push apart, random, shader. spline effector, step effector, they are not that useful, but I can quickly tell you about the step effector. So if I select the cloner, turn on a step, and then let me set this to something like linear. So this is what a step effector does. As you see, it works just by a step, and this curve or a spline defines the step, you see. And you can change the parameter. So let's say I changed some rotation on this angle, so see what happened. I select the step effector and change this. You see that this is pretty cool. And I can select this side as well, play with that. You can change the position. Create something like this. If I go with a higher number, see what happened. And select this again in the effector. See that? This is what you can get with this. So if I put the cube again and take it out, and here I can, turn on this cube. Okay, maybe I need more number. $800. So let me scale cube a little bit to see it better. Okay, so you see that what happened here with this step effector. I can define this cool animation or rotation here. Awesome. This is a step effector. Just to recap, I think these are all the important effectors that you really need to know about. But just to recap and finish this tutorial, I just want to get back to the cloner and tell you about the instance mode and the type of the the way you can clone them. So let's say I just want to get rid of all these guys and delete this one, set this to, let's say, grid. Cool. So I have a simple cloner in grid mode here, right? Let's say you want to duplicate or clone two different shape of objects, a sphere and this cube. See what happened if I put the sphere, and let me just rescale it as well, because I already rescaled the scaled the cube, right? So if I put it here, it just assign this sphere based on each other position. And as you see in the cloner effector, I don't have any thing or any options here. So this clones, you see, these are different type of ways it clones. So if I set it to random, see what happened. It just mix them together randomly, and I can change the seed if I'm not happy with the their position. I can change the seed really easy. The other way is sort, which means that I can clone them based on sort. So the sphere is on top. If I put it on top, then it duplicate with the cube, right? And the other thing, so you just saw this iterate, which is every each other. And the other thing is blend mode. So if I set it to blend mode, see what happened. It's a little weird here. So it means that, I don't know, it doesn't work. But no, how it works, actually blend objects together based on parameters. So because here we have one cube and a sphere and they are not related to each other in none way. So let's say if I turn on the shading, you see even the shading is totally different. So it doesn't know how to blend them together. But let's say you have, let me take out this and let me control click. I just duplicate the cube. I put two cubes here, right? So if I change something in this cube, then that it can blend between these two parameters, it makes sense. So let's say, for example, I select the fillet here. Okay, so let me just see, set to iterate. Okay, I just select this cube, turn on the fillet and set this to 5 for subdivision, and for radius set this to 100, like, right? So for the other cube, I select the fillet, leave it to 5 but set this to 10. So let's see what happened now. If I select blend here, I expect to blend these together. So see what happened. As you see, it starts by the lower number, and you know, gradually it turns to the bigger number. It's really cool. So this is how blend works. It means that you can create different things, different shapes, and then blend them together. So real quick, if I delete this and just select create to a sphere, I shift select both spheres, change this mode to this type and set this to something like 50, and then assign them to the cloner, and let's also rescale them a little bit. Okay, so I have exactly two spheres but with exact same parameters. But the only difference I'm gonna make, if I create a displacer, again for these deformers I will have a different tutorial, but here I just want to quickly show you a benefit of this blend things. I just assign this displacer, and in the shading assign a noise, and in the noise I change this to 1000 for example, and change the number to 100. Okay, so let's see what happened here. If I assign this to this one as well, and then just change the number to something like 1. So let's see. To see it better, I would change this scale to something like 3000, and this one 3000 also. And you know, maybe this number should be way bigger, 400. Okay, so now this is how blend works. As you see, it starts with this simple sphere, and gradually it changed this to this mode. That's how blend work. Again, you can change it to random, and there will be some random cloners. That's it. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. In the next tutorial I try to make a video for different type of fall off, and also there will be a video for deformers. So I think first I need to make some simple tutorials about basic things in Cinema 4D, and then go with some cool animations. Thank you so much again. Don't forget to ask your questions. I always try to reply to your question as soon as I get time. Bye bye.